Our next guest is in the studio. Samson Cheragei is the senator for Nandi County. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Mambo vipi?
Safi kabisa. Mambo poa.
I expect you to say mambo imechemuka.
Mambo poa.
Mambo poa.
I thought I should not be a guest, I should be a resident.
You should be
analyst,
a resident panelist.
At least monthly I'm here.
You see, since we are not politicians,
Yes.
we will tell you it is a possibility.
Okay.
Yes.
Everything is possible.
No. What you've just suggested is a possibility.
Of course.
Yes.
It's good to be back.
Terms and conditions apply.
Of course.
Tutafikiria mambo. Hiyo maneno
sawa.
tutafikiria maneno. Tutakushughulikia.
Asante.
Siti.
Yes, please.
Welcome the senator with the proverb.
Yes, the proverb will be welcomed by the senator. Okay. Proverbs are from the Republic of Angola. Okay. Ndugu Senator, did you know that people whose countries were once colonized by the Portuguese are called Lusophones?
No, I didn't know that.
Neither did I. I just looked into this.
Instead of Francophone,
Anglophone. They are called Lusophones.
Okay.
Yes. Now let us get a proverb from this Lusophone country. One who throws the stone forgets. One who is hit remembers forever.
One who throws the stone forgets. One who's hit by that stone remembers forever. What do you think they're saying?
Things about consequences. It doesn't matter who says, but it matters how you feel after it has been said. Yeah. I think that's my interpretation. Yeah.
How you say it, the person whom you say it to
might not remember, but the person who's being told to will always remember how you made them feel. Yeah.
Huyu mtu kuna kitu alisema tangu hiyo siku.
Yeah, sijasahau. Yeah.
Mimi roho yangu ilimkataa tu hapo. Hapo.
But if you ask the person who said, they might no longer not remember.
They don't even know what they said.
Remember.
Yeah. And what's happening in the country? What's your reading of the current situation in the country?
A lot is happening across the country, which is unexpected. These are extraordinary times. I said on the floor of the House on Wednesday, it was unexpected. And I think it has pointed that as a country and as a people, sometimes some things get to an extent where the people, by the people and for the people, rise up against some of the things that they feel they are not right. Of course, led by Generation Z, and these things have happened when it was not expected. But the signs has been on the wall, as they say, mene tekel, was written on the wall. It is that we have misread the signs for very long, but we have been aware what has been ailing the country. Like issues of corruption, wastage expenditure both at national and county governments, corruption both at levels, governance that does not meet the threshold and the thinking of the people, and also taking people for granted, opulence in display. And all these issues have been here with us. But I think no one has been bold enough like Gen Z to come out and speak against it because of various interests, both people in public service, in government, both levels, and also individuals who feel that if today they come out and talk about it, they have their own interests.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I'm happy as a young person and as leadership that at least the people are taking charge of their destiny. And that has been my prayer all along. I'm happy the conversation is happening where it should be. And I hope and pray that that the wisdom of us in leadership led by the president will lead to radical changes. And you remember I raised all these issues. I have appeared on this show when I raised about opulence in some of the members of the executive. And in fact, as we talk, I have been taken to court for raising the questions on opulence of some of the members of the executive. And we have been in some of the group where we are with you. I don't know. I saw somebody mentioning a group we are, the WhatsApp group. and you know the aspects. But the point I'm happy is that the direction that the young people has taken us is good direction. I hope we don't extend to extreme. We must have a structured engagement, and I think it is important for the country, especially the issue of corruption.
Yeah.
Corruption is what is killing this country at both levels.
Okay.
At counties, and I'm happy that GNC have said when they are done with the national government, their next destination they are devolving. And I said in May that 3/4 of governors should be in jail for corruption. People misinterpreted it. People came out, guns blessing that we want to kill devolution. It is a reality. Wastage in government is a reality. Corruption has been here with us. The challenge with corruption is that it has been here with us as long as the 60 years plus. So the question, how far can we go to ensure we root corruption within? And then the prudent spending. And I'm happy the president has said, let us, and I saw you, you did a good job eloquently. You asked the questions that many people would not ask. I wish next time Do goes or the researcher goes, City Muga, we must grab some of those officers.
Next time we'd like the president to come.
Here.
Yeah, he will. But you know, he's a man who can very eloquent, and he's a decisive man. Like scrapping off of the first lady's offices, second lady's office, prime cabinet spouses. Personally, I believe those officers should go. I think as even you can imagine, even governors, some governors have first lady, and that has been an audit query because I'm the vice chairperson of Senate Public Accounts. In some instances, we were even having wardrobe allowances for some governors in the first term of devolution. And I don't want to name one, you know, he serves in the highest position in Parliament. So that I you know, the last time I called out somebody, I was almost being taken to powers and privileges in Parliament when I questioned the issue of excessive spending on Bunge Towers of 9.8 billion. And you know, you will do your own research. So if such cases, if wananchi who do not have even less than $1 per day, listen that somebody has wardrobe allowance, somebody has budget for first lady in the counties or in the national, sometimes it is not fair to the country. And I am happy that the decision, the public survey should take cue now and ensure those officers are scrapped off, because under the PMF Act, you must have a legal authority to spend. And then we stop these lagis. Why would they? And I'm happy the city, we no longer hear sirens. I think GNC have brought some sanity. Nowadays, I'm wondering where the flags went, the sirens went.
You don't see them?
I don't see them on the traffic nowadays. I think that is the discipline we need in this country. Let people be humble. And when we call for humility, the higher you go, you need to be more humble and respectful. Because at the end of the day, the reason some of us are in office is because that ordinary Wanjiku, on the street, they went as cast the ballot, they gave us an opportunity. And I said on the floor, it will not matter whether you are in opposition or in government. At the end of the day, what I saw in Parliament on Tuesday was like a movie. I would not have expected an established democracy like Kenya to, in fact, some of the members of minority who voted no were running away like some of us through the basement to hide into safety. Because wananchi did know the difference between a senator and MP, and they were tired with all of us.
It was the establishment.
Yes, establishment. Yes.
As we see all this, you know, the response coming.
Yes.
And the announcements and the commitments that are being made. All right. So we have an appropriations bill that has already been assented to.
Yes.
It's in effect as it had been presented and as it was passed by Parliament.
Yes.
So all those expenditures are still there. Legally,
yes.
There's an expenditure for the Office of the First Lady. There's an expenditure for, you know...
Second Lady.
Is it Second Lady?
Is it? How do you put it?
Who knows, Bana?
All
those Second Lady and Third Lady, all those expenditures are still there.
Yes.
How do you actually get to a level where proper rationalization of expenditure happens, and the House that did not see anything wrong with those expenditures and actually passed them is the one that will be expected to see something wrong now and start cutting them?
No, but I've said, and I want to say that there is no spending within government that has no financial authority. When you look at the audit reports, they always look at lawfulness and effectiveness. They look also whether the accounting officers, the power of spending was given, who is the IE holder. So you must, by the time Parliament passed certain offices to spend, there is authority, legal authority. That is why I've said the public service. Now we are having a new conversation in this country that we don't need some offices like CAS. The CAS, the Parliament did pass the regularization as suggested by PSC, Public Service Commission. It is now within the law, so it means you can appoint a CS, and that gives the power to spending. So the question now is that Parliament, we must go back and scrap legally, like the way deletion and through the public service, so that you cannot spend without the legal backing. Because now the appropriation bill must be amended.
Right.
It must be amended as and I hope as Parliament National Assembly resumes, because under Article 110 on money bill, the process of making a budget is a joint between the Senate and the National Assembly. And you are aware, petition number 3 of 2013, where division of revenue were part of it, the CARA, county allocation revenue. It will also come back, and I saw the communique for President that we must amend CARA because now counties we had given for 1 billion.
So the question is, you as Parliament,
yes,
initially passed all these expenditures.
Correct.
Okay?
Yes.
The people of Kenya have said, pana, this is too much expenditure.
Correct.
And they're saying we've got to cut it. The president has instructed his National Treasury to come with proposals on where the cuts would be.
Yes.
So the National Treasury, the executive that had proposed to spend this much, is the same one that's going to come and propose to reduce. How do we trust that Parliament is actually going to make sure that the right items are removed and the right items are funded?
Parliament will now no longer, they will be forced to do the right thing. I hope you are aware after the circumstances. So it's not even in question. Number two, the reason that expenditure was big is because the finance bill has been passed. Because if the finance bill, let's assume everything remain constant, the additional 300 plus billion that the finance bill, which is a generation of the executive wanted to raise, should have been captured in the expenditure. But now when the finance bill, the president withdrew and rejected from signing it, you pass finance bill with appropriation bill. So it will mean you must amend, and that is why I was using example of counties that Senate, where we do division of revenue bill and we also do CARA, we will amend, because the projection in that appropriation bill and allocation of resources was that 41 billion will go to counties. Now we'll need to review it, which means we must amend the CARA, which was an act that has been assented to, and also Division of Revenue Act, which we must, and also conditional
My question, Senator, is
how do you trust Parliament?
Is Parliament alive to the realities?
No, it is alive.
Is Parliament reading the room? Is Parliament going to come and say, now because, you guys raided Parliament, now we are going to cut, we are not going to hire teachers, but we are still going to allow certain expenditures that are still considered by the public extravagant?
Yes.
How is Parliament going to make sure that it is cutting these budgets in the best interest of the public, so that we don't end up with no doctors, no teachers, no clinical officers,
but we end up
buying new cars, or still having mandas?
No, I think, in my own opinion, the process that Parliament will undertake now will be in the open. And they know the consequences of doing certain decision. All of us, including myself. It doesn't mean even if Senate was not part of the passage of financial bill, we are alive to the issues that is happening in the country. And one of them, like for example, in my own opinion, we should not cut down on JSS junior secondary schools. We should ensure when the cutting of budget comes, we must ensure that for 6,000 JSS teachers under internship program are transited to permanent and pensionable. Those are priority areas. The UHC, the medical intern doctors, must be absorbed. Anything that will go to development should not be touched.
Okay.
Because we have done away with the expenditure, like the first lady, second lady, and other offices that we need. If you spend them, it will allow wastage of resources, and even the buying of vehicles. Why would a government office still has flowers coming daily? It's not a love picnic area. Why would you having the newspapers? I'm not trying, I know you sell generating revenue, but why don't you use this a way of doing it online? Why would you have tea? You can have tea in your own house and mandazi. If we cut such, and I agree with you, and I think it was during Kibaki's time where we wanted to do away with flowers in offices, newspapers, tea, snacks. Let people, if you want to have lunch, just come with your packed lunch, or organize within the organization your own cost-sharing cafeteria, so that you don't need to spend public money on some things that all of us can. Because a senator like me, I am not as much as not being able to buy for myself.
You can afford to buy yourself.
Yes, I say that Parliament will go. In fact, in Parliament, what we do is we pay. I know a number of you as journalists has visited Parliament and we sign. So why don't we ensure every organization, if I want a newspaper as an MD or a CEO, or why don't I buy my own newspaper or my own flowers if I love flowers so much?
So, Senator, I think the overarching question here is that really should confidence be placed on the House of Parliament to be able to do some of these things that you're talking about? And I think that is the issue, that there is a dwindling level trust in Parliament to do what they should be doing in the areas of legislation, representation and oversight. And here we are saying that here we are saying essentially that they're going to do it because they know the consequences. So why can't we have this action bereft of consequences? Why must it be that there's this thing hanging over your head and so we must do it because if we don't, people will go to the streets? No. It is what you're supposed to do anyway. This is why you earn the big bucks, to be able to do this thing anyway. So where do we get to the point where we say we have a functioning, conscientious parliament who is doing what they're supposed to do? The trust has dwindled. People don't believe that the 13th parliament can actually carry out their duties. And I think that's the issue that we are dealing with here. Why can't we have it that nobody has to say, if you don't, I'll call police? It has to be that you actually do what you were elected to do.
In short, it is about integrity. It is making the right decision, not the popular decision. I think from where I sit, the extreme will be to an option the Constitution has created is recalling your member of National Assembly or member of Parliament. That's one. Number two is going for a snap election, where you are saying since the Parliament has lost the trust of the people, you now move to have snap election. But from where I sit, I will also beg that the public should not be too harsh to Parliament. Because at the end of the day, in as much as the issue of finance bill, which I still believe there was a lot of misinformation about it. Because when you look about land rates and land taxes, it was in the amendment that the majority leader of National Assembly withdrew. Even when you talk about the issue of road maintenance levy fund taxes, it was a different and independent amendment that was supposed to come to the floor of the House. The issue is Parliament as Parliament also, and I've seen misinformation. All Parliament runs courtesy of parties. Even across the world, if today Democrats or Republicans, or even I can see in UK, the decision is normally made by the party. I can have a different opinion, for example, that we should do X, Y, Z in Parliament as a member of UDA. But when a party takes that position today and decides that as a party, we are taking a certain direction, and that is party democracy. You must take that direction. But in consciousness, in discussion, and with the party leadership and the party structures. So the question is, when the executive generates anything into beneficial of the public, should we as parliamentarian political parties, either Azimio or Kenya Kwanza, sit with our political party leadership and agree with the interest of the country at the end of the day? Because, for example, I've been a chair of JLAC and Human Rights in the Senate in the last session. Under Article 118, there is what we call public participation. Whenever if today we decide that we want to sell this pen, and we call for public participation, can you believe there might be one or two people turning up, and mostly
you know why?
Let me just complete. Mostly are civil society, and we put in newspapers like the newspaper you have here, the Standard. We put it in Spice, we put it in Radio Maisha, we put it in other local dialects. But when how should you do?
Announcement kama hiyo.
No, I'm saying about public participation. No, but in your Standard Standard has ever carried, because I've been there, even in your adverts, that present a certain memorandum.
Yeah.
I've been a chair. We have sat many days waiting for Kenyans to give us their views. So how should we proceed? Because Parliament is there, public participation is there. We are coming up with a legislation called Public Participation Bill, and I hope it passes. So at the end of the day, what should we do? Now that we have a proposal, for example, let's say do road markings within Mombasa Road. So if today we put in Standard newspaper and say, please submit memoranda to Parliament, to Public Transport and Committee, Roads and Transport Committee, you go to the committee room, no one stands up.
Yeah.
When they hear that you are passing at the floor of the, and then when you come and analyze and say XY law was passed yesterday in Parliament, you hear the public uproar.
In the spirit
So
and
the
letter
Gen
of the
Z should give us the creativeness of achieving
In
that.
the spirit and letter of the Constitution, the Constitution actually says that public participation shall look at all media, including digital and new media. Okay?
Yes.
So when you put it on a newspaper for one day, and Melissa,
What exactly? have
But
you
now you will, you know, Eric, you will now
question
come
is-
just
and that's why 14 years later we still don't have a law on public participation.
But you know,
Which
under
would
the
have-
County Governments Act, I
which
think
would have
section
put in-
8788, it provides on the processes of public participation.
Yes.
But the point also, it comes out to spending. If today the Committee of Public Accounts, we want to invite governors to appear. Today the Jamaica governor will appear before my committee from 10. Now, if you put daily, the same public will come and say, why did you put the adverts daily on both digital and hard copy, and you have been spending money?
Oh, yeah.
You don't know, that's another aspect altogether.
Let's take a
So
break.
you should advise us on how to proceed.
Let's.
Now Parliament is listening more to the ground.
Very good.
Hallelujah.
Very good.
Senator, we're looking at a number of things having evolved over time. And one of the things you talked about public participation is that people become habitual in nature.
Yes.
And that if they find that the things that they have suggested or things that they have made known in terms of what they want to be implemented as people who are participating in governance, if they find that those things have not been implemented or those things have not been considered, the likelihood of them coming back tomorrow then reduces significantly. And so it seems as though sometimes public participation is just a rubber stamp activity in terms of what's going to be added to a report. And so when we look at things like that, it's then necessary to actually say, look, are we a citizen oriented participating form of governance? That's where it all starts. Now, when we then look at the question of Parliament today, and everything that we speak of, everything that has happened over the last 2 weeks, when it comes to the protests, when it comes to the finance bill, when it comes to what's going to happen in the future, really then comes to the door of Parliament. When we talk about corruption, when we talk about Nancy Gathungu and the damning reports that she brings out every day, when it talks about recommendations for prosecution and things like that over things that have gone awry, it falls again at the doorstep of Parliament. So the question still comes back and we say, can we operate in the way in which we have been operating in the most recent past? Is it possible whereby you talk about the split between parties? And so it seems like a circus whereby one political party is playing against the other at the behest of a functioning nation. When will we stop playing these games?
I think, do I agree with you on that part where we have reduced most of the serious issues in this country to political competition, that we want to score political aspect. And I agree with you largely on the statement that you have put across. And how does Parliament need to win the confidence of the public going even into the future? For example, even, and I want to say that most of these things, for example, let me use the reports that are taken to Parliament for audit, where I sit at the Public Accounts Vice Chairperson in the Senate, is that we make recommendations. You know, now the problem with government is all arms of government, the executive, the judiciary, the legislature have a role. For example, if an entity appears before us, like a county, and we find, for example, in Nandi, there was an issue of insurance cover that was provided, and we were querying over 300 million plus that was in doubt. We have made recommendation to EACC, for example, to investigate. But you know, now the question should be, Parliament can only recommend. You know, we don't have prosecution powers. We cannot jail anybody. So at the end of the day, even if you have to bring the issue of fake fertilizer scandal, for example, the Senate Committee on Agriculture, and I hope this week they table that report, they are yet to table, they will make raft of recommendations to entities like DCI, EACC, even to the executive. So how, the parliament now does not have power to put a gun on EACC and tell them, since you have not arrested CT Muga.
Actually, they do.
I'm coming there per se. But now the question, when you ask EACC, why are you not investigating, they will tell you we don't have resources. The another option is to disband EACC completely by parliament.
How does EACC come into this?
I'm using an example because we are discussing about corruption. For example, if today the parliament made a recommendation on fake fertilizer or a county, the only aspect that the parliament has is to recommend. I wish we had the power of prosecuting and arresting and jailing.
Actually, no. The power that you have isn't only to recommend.
I know it's also appropriation.
Yes, but even then, remember how you've got your job and who it is you serve.
Correct.
If you have a problem,
the people.
Who do you go back to? The people who gave you the job.
Yes.
The people who gave you the job have that gun. They are... You see what's happening here?
Yes.
They are applying pressure by simply walking around. Okay, there are a few who are doing more than walking around. Okay. They're taking around things which aren't theirs.
Yes.
And they are causing harm and mayhem. But if we cannot see how the person whose job it is to give members of parliament, the executive, the jobs they have, if one cannot see now that they're telling you, we do have the power and we're telling you this is the power that we have, those are the people you go to. Those are the people you say, this is a situation we have and it cannot move because of this. But how often do you do that? Not you as Cherargei.
No, as a parliament, I agree.
How often do you go back to the person who gave you the job to say, you gave me this job, I can't do it, and the reason why I can't do it is this?
Now, that is the aspect and the role of public participation. And there are stop and cap measures. I wanted to, at the end of the day, how often will you do a public referendum? The only option of getting feedback from the public is through public participation. For example, that is what the mechanism that the parliament has put. You were even asking if today parliament passes something that do not agree. The measures that the constitution has given allows you to move to court. And that is why my colleague, Senator Okoh Mutata, is in court over appropriation bill. In fact, when you look at the constitution, it says parliament should appropriate monies to independent. It says parliament. When you go at Article 93, it says it is the Senate and the National Assembly. So all this, the constitution has created mechanisms to provide on how you can still challenge a decision of executive, a decision of judiciary, and a decision of legislature.
Senator,
but now, how do you get feedback? The only feedback we get is we do a public participation.
Let me ask you, do you think that public participation in the manner in which it is currently carried out is effective? Yes or no?
It is not effective.
Okay, so how
as a parliamentarian, it is not.
Thank you. So then how can you say to us now that the only measure that you can use for people to be involved in this process is through a flawed system that doesn't work? This public participation mechanism that is used currently does not work. You cannot take the views of 1,000 people, which in most cases are shut down, and then say that that is the position of the nation of 50 million people. So we know that system or that way of doing public participation is ineffective, it is inefficient. Now, the hope would have been Parliament being the body which then is hinged on representation will say, hold up, folks, the way in which we are doing this thing does not work. We are not truly getting the views of the people. They are not ensconced in the decisions that we are making. Can we do another? Can we come up with something else? Never have I ever heard that suggestion being made.
But to be fair to us is that we already have a bill in place trying to address such challenges, public participation bill, and I'm only disappointed that that bill was in the last session, but we didn't succeed in passing it.
Why?
The question should be, can Kenyans also, when called upon to participate, because I have talked to, in fact, by the way, you are very right. There are instances where the OAG has audited public participation process, and even there are questioned the signatures, attendees, the memorandum, the spending. I can, when you invite a governor here, the counties are doing budget estimates. I saw my friend Senator Mutula Kilonzo in the spirit of withdrawing finance bill, he has also withdrew. So when you go and ask, even when the budget estimates are done by county assemblies and the governors, they will tell you, people will turn up are either people who are given soda and mkate to attend, because the Kenyan nature, most of the people are busy. Imagine today if you were to come and do public consultation outside Standard Group here, you will find people will be asking public consultation for XY. People will say, I'm too busy to attend. So the question, even as the process is flowed through, we should also, as a citizens, be ready to participate. Because we can put even red carpet, we can put tea, we can put everything, we can make sure it is in an air-conditioned room, a place you will not see the sun or the rain. But at the end of the day, the Kenyans might not turn up. So the question should be...
Have we asked the question why they don't turn up?
But I've given you an example. Some of them are busy. No, they are saying wrong timing.
No, it's not busy.
Some of them are saying we don't understand what you are discussing, the complicity.
Actually, it's none of those. I think the Kenyans got to a point, I'm one of those Kenyans,
yes,
where we determined in our minds that nothing will come out of these meetings. So why bother?
Now, and then we must trust our institutions.
History
because why would you agree? Why would you create institutions? For example, let me use the finance.
We actually don't trust the individuals in the institutions are okay. These are inanimate objects. It's the individuals
who run those institutions.
Yes.
Let me use
the dissatisfaction is not something that began with these protests. The dissatisfaction has been there for a long time.
No, agreed.
So essentially, when you have a trigger that now gives it an opportunity for expression, if there was no dissatisfaction, what you're referring to as public participation would be attended in large numbers. Because people would know this is where we get matters heard and this is where we get things changed. But over time, when you see that that is not a reality and you don't see it being a reality in the near future, Senator, you simply stop bothering.
But also another partner is the media, and then number two is the trust we have. We have a lot of trust deficiencies, and that is why we don't have IBC today. Let me use an example of the rejected Finance Bill 2024. For example, when media, you gave attention the public participation. When they came around here to do public participation, some of them along this road, your neighborhood, many people started turning up. In fact, they used to listen to memoranda up into the night. One of them was dropping motor vehicle tax, which was dropped in the amendments on the final day of Tuesday. The issue of many other aspects within that were dropped after you and cry from the public. So by the time and it is good, you media were there and you can review on the answer what was deleted at the suggestion of the people. So I agree with you. There is that fatigue, public fatigue, that people think we can say something and nothing might not happen.
Because of mischief. It's because that lack of trust is because people feel that there is mischief. Always there is mischief. And yet we are dealing with political creatures. Somebody has actually even sent me a message and says, look, these are politicians.
Yes.
How they win votes is by the very best public participation.
Yes.
Correct.
They know very well how to go to the people, how to understand what the people want, and they coin their message around the needs of the people. Yes. And that's how they get elected. Yes. So they know very well how to actually do it.
Yes. They do.
But when they get elected, they now start saying, people, the newspapers, these stories. But you know how to do it. 14 years after the Constitution, we still have a bill in Parliament looking at how to, go about public participation. Really?
I think Makweni in Kivuta Kibwana, they had passed something about, I think Uganda as one of the best model of public participation. But now, Eric, to be fair, if today we have a finance bill, what is the cost of doing public participation across the country? Let's imagine even we are using our own vehicles. We drive to Garissa and do public participation. You will need a lot of spending at the end of the day, the secretariat, the materials, the hospitality issues, the movement. So unless you are telling me today, since I come from Nandi, I go and do public participation, I collect with my own secretariat, my office of the Senator Secretariat, and bring it to Parliament, which will have 47 senators coming up with feedback from the ground and tabling. Alternatively, just a minute, City. Alternatively, is sending Finance and Budget Committee of the Senate I highly doubt, even if there are 9, they can crisscross the entire country getting.
Who's asked them to crisscross?
Even that idea that
the
you've
person
given,
who is in Muhoroni,
the issue of
where you come from, he will not believe that you are speaking on his behalf. He would want me to go to Muhoroni.
That MP who's representing the people of Muhoroni,
Yes.
we give that MP mileage allowance
Correct.
to come to our constituency,
Correct.
to engage with the people.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Now, if you can get a record,
Yes.
a true record of what the people are saying on the ground,
Yes.
that MP will have a better informed sense
Yes.
when they are.
But let me ask you a question, Eric. I know you are asking. You are good at asking. But let me ask you a question.
Ask, please.
Imagine that Moroni, member of Parliament of CT Muga, is not a member of Finance and Budget.
So he'll still present to the finance and budget.
He's a member.
Unless you are telling us, apart from Wananchi, members of Parliament, including Senator Cherargei, have gone somewhere in Nandi, and have gotten. I should also be part of the people presenting before Finance and Budget.
Let me change this discussion a little bit.
Yes.
And bring a little reality to it.
Yes.
You are in Nairobi, are you not?
Yes, I'm in Nairobi.
You have people who supported your campaign and people who give you information about what's happening on the ground.
Yes, kusikiza ground.
Precisely.
Yes.
And it's a structure that you have, isn't it?
Yes.
Even when you are required to do something, it's not as though you figure it out.
Yes.
They tell you, Mheshimiwa, you need to be here this weekend because we have this and this and this and this happening.
Yes.
Now, those are people who are constantly doing public participation, constantly, and giving you feedback. That's how come you know. Every member of parliament has that set up. Otherwise, they would not be members of parliament. Every.
Of course.
So
even
now,
the MCS.
Every. So they cannot say, and they cannot expect us to accept when they tell us all these stories about, oh, this, oh, that. No. The mechanism is there. If it isn't working, it is because the individual members of parliament have determined it should not work.
Yeah.
But the question should be, you are asking a very valid point, but how do we do the record? For example, if a member of parliament of Dakoreti North or South today visits the ground, then how do you ensure you get that record that it will reflect as part of public participation? Because the Finance and Budget Committee can go to Dagoretti South, for example, or Dagoretti North, and do public participation. So how will you get the member of Wajir North, for example? You know, those are ideas that we need to get as parliament. Say that if today I go to Nandi and they are not comfortable with Finance Bill of 2024 or Land Laws Amendment that was introducing land rates and taxation on land, how should I be, instead of allowing Kenyans to present as entities and individuals public participation, I also do record and file with the Finance and Budget Committee or Lands Committee, which is okay.
Yeah.
Which I agree.
You see, there are structures already.
Of course.
And there's nothing that stops you, members of parliament, from expanding that structure.
Correct.
There's a constituency office.
Correct.
With a constituency manager.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Paid by the exchequer.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So there are other structures that can be established in a constituency.
Yes.
That are able to gather feedback. Even an NGC is a structure.
Yeah,
and there are other
yes,
structures.
yes.
At ward level, even with the county administration, there are many structures of actually gathering information and collating that information. When a member of parliament is participating in the process of making a law, they can come up with informed opinions. In the second stage, they can even seek, if there's something that is really, really strong, they can seek to appear before the relevant committee and say, this is what we are hearing. You know, this matter specifically affects my people. When this law is passed, it's a law on mining. My people of Taita Taveta will be affected because mining, right?
Correct.
And this is what they're saying.
Yes. I agree with you. By the way, I agree.
It is because of mischief. Because the only public participation that we seem to be seeing from Parliament is from party bosses. If the party leader says yes to a certain provision of a proposal, that is the only public participation that you'll hear being amplified.
But you have to appreciate even in PG, in parliamentary group meetings, we also give feedback.
And you get the feedback from who?
So we always discuss, and that is why
feedback,
parliamentary democracy.
When you are giving feedback, are you amplifying the feedback that you've gotten from your people?
Of course. In fact, when we went the other day on finance bill, when we went to PG, many people expressed reservation, for example, to motor vehicle tax. All the deletions that were done by the finance and budget chair on Tuesday, before that unfortunate incident happened, was that what we gave feedback, and the party agreed with us, and the president, the party leader, and the deputy party leader was there, agreed with us that, for example, those must be deleted. It was deleted on Tuesday. Number two, even I agree with you, because even by the time we were doing public participation finance bill, the JSS teachers had said, as you do finance bill and budget, make sure we are included in PNP, permanent and pensionable.
Yeah.
The UHC doctors had said we must get interns doctors being paid and also being absorbed. CHVs, community health promoters, we must factor in. The issue of roads, people said we must allocate funds. So there is already a feedback mechanism. But I think the challenge, and I agree with you largely, we are skizzering ground nowadays, is that we need, how do we transit? We have so much information. How do we collect? By the time I make a decision to vote during division time in Parliament, I should make a vote on behalf of the people of Kenya and on behalf of the people of Nandi. The vote that if I cast today at the floor of the Senate, it reflects on the wishes and aspirations of Kenyans. So the challenge, I agree with you, we have so much information.
It is a no-brainer. You have just explained it yourself.
Correct.
If you're doing it in the best interest of your voters, then it's a no-brainer. If you're doing it, balancing it with the interest of somebody else, then it's a challenge.
But at the end of the day, Latiff, to be fair, this is a party democracy. The decisions sometimes we make are collective. It's just like cabinet. You must have a collective decision.
If the leader of the party is doing things in the best interest of the voter,
that will happen.
It's a no-brainer.
But even the president,
the leader of the party,
but the president rejecting the finance bill was also in the best interest of the country.
No, it was.
So this was after.
It was not.
This was.
But after public participation,
definitively wasn't.
This was way
because
after things
if it
had gone
was,
all right.
then nobody would have
but I
protested
want to
against
assure
it.
you,
they would have embraced it and said, "This is a wonderful."
Absolutely,
yes.
And we have to
that they protested tells you they are telling you it was not in their interest.
That
so whoever advised those in power that it was in their interest, that person should be looked into again.
That there was action after there was action after the protest, then does not equate to. Sorry, Senator. There was action after the protest. Does not equate to the same thing that you're saying now, that the things are being done in the best interest of the country. Like CT is saying, had we seen this action when we started to see the rumblings and the murmurings that perhaps we should actually listen to what Kenyans are saying, somebody would have been able to see something totally different.
But I've said, for example, is that there was a lot of misinformation. By the way, when dust settles, and I agree that finance bill was a trigger of many problems that is happening in the country. But when the dust will settle, for example, I've given you a misinformation. Even when I went to my village, people asking me, why are you putting finance bill to tax land? Yet it was a different amendment altogether. For example, number 2, on the issue of raising the tax on RLMF, Roads Maintenance and Levy Fund, it was an issue that would have come as a separate amendment before the road laws. So at the end of the day, I think, and the president agreed that there was a lot of misinformation and the communication failed.
Because communication.
Correct.
That's it.
If there was proper communication, then there would have been clear understanding that there's a different law on land. There's a different proposed law on public finance, the taxes. There's a different law that is on road maintenance levy, and so on and so forth. Mischief, Mheshimiwa. But thank you very much for joining us today.
In conclusion, I can say, just in conclusion, is to appeal to Gen Z, as I said on the floor of the House. And we are in session. Let us give dialogue a chance. Let us, and I know the President will take action in the course of this week. We hope that the ESA is doing soul searching in cabinet, is also doing the issue of scrapping some offices and also on wastage and spending. I want to ask the Gen Z also to give room a dialogue. He has said he will host them on X Space, as they have suggested they are tribeless, they are leaderless. So I want to appeal them to be peaceful even as they express themselves. We don't want to see, and I want to appeal to the police. Let us separate the criminals from the genuine and peaceful demonstrators. And in anybody, wants to harm anybody, and I hope I sympathize and empathize with the families that have lost their loved ones. I hope IPOA will take action where need be, but to ask the police also to restrain themselves and use reasonable force, and in case it arises. But let us protect and ensure and appeal that if there are criminals who want to get advantage of, they must be arrested and fail full.
Samson Cherargei, Senator for Nandi County, has been our guest.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.